If you're tired of not seeing results from your ab sessions or always waking up the next day with a sore lower back, then this ab workout is something for you. So we're going to start by activating our TVA, and then we're moving on to the actual workout part. So whenever you're ready, please lay on your back on the mat. And the goal with the first activation exercises is to make sure that we're engaging our deep core. So what we don't want to do is have this gap between our lower back and the mat. So what we're going to do is pressing our pelvis down, almost as if you are zipping up your abs like the zipper of your jeans, exhaling and really engaging your core. And we're just going to hold it here for a couple of seconds. During this entire workout, we can always refer back to this exercise just to make sure that we understand how we are actually engaging our core properly. So whenever you're ready, we're going to lift our knees up, and then we're going to gently tap our toes on the mat while keeping our core activated. Keeping a core activated or bracing your core doesn't mean that you can no longer breathe. We want to make sure that we keep breathing while we are training our core, but just make sure that you have that slight tension in your core. So whenever you're ready, we're going to gently lower 2 legs down at the same time. If you need to, and if you feel like your lower back is coming off of the mat, then you can always place your hands underneath your glutes, because this will help with making sure that your pelvis is pressed down. Beautiful. And then next up, we're going to lift our arms up towards the ceiling. We're going to lower our left leg, extending it fully while extending our right arm. And then we're coming back to center, and then we're changing sides, all while making sure that we keep our back pressed against the mat and that we are activating our core. Beautiful. Perfect. So now that we prepped our core, it is time for the first exercise. So whenever you're ready, if you have a weaker side, then start on your weaker side first. I'm going to place my hand on the mat. I have one foot in front of the other, and I'm lifting my other arm up towards the ceiling so that we are in a side plank. If you need to, you can always make sure that you look down to your hand. This will help with balance, because you now have just one point that you are looking towards. And then if you can, we're going to stack our feet. Beautiful. Make sure that your shoulder is stacked above your wrist. And if this feels fine, if you feel strong, if your core is braced and you feel your obliques working, then you can even lift up that top leg. Beautiful. And take a minute to breathe. We are resetting, and we're placing on our other hand on the mat. One foot is in front of the other, and then I'm lifting my other arm up towards the ceiling while looking down at my hand. Beautiful. Make sure that your core is braced. Feel that tension in your obliques, and if you can, we're going to stack our feet. Keep your gaze down, and if this feels okay, if you're feeling strong, if your shoulders stay stacked, if your hips are not dropping and you're fully extending towards the ceiling, then take your time to lift that top leg off of the other one. So we're in our full side plank. Beautiful. Keep breathing while bracing your core. And release. Now we're going to do another static hold. We're going to lay on our mat. I'm going to make sure that my back is pressed against the mat. If you need to, place your hands underneath your glutes. If you don't need to, then that's perfect. We're going to extend our legs. We're pointing our toes. And then I'm going to reach for my toes while making sure that I lift my shoulder blades off of the mat. Keep that core braced. Beautiful. This is another static hold, an active one. Again, if you need to, place your hands underneath your glutes. Make sure that your back is pressed against the mat. You can also always reset or just hold it here. And release. Beautiful. So for the next exercise, I'm going to place my hands underneath my glutes. And then I'm going to start in that same active hold, and then I'm crunching my glutes up, and I'm bringing my knees towards my eyes while slowly lowering. Beautiful. I really want to make sure that I do this exercise very controlled, because I don't want to rely on momentum here. I want to make sure that I actually use my core to crunch myself up. And extend. If you need to, place your hands underneath your glutes. Beautiful. So the next one that we're doing is a hip lift. We just did a reverse crunch. It's a similar movement, but instead of crunching your knees towards your eyes, we're going to lift our hips up towards the ceiling. I have a slight bend at my knees, and I'm using my core to lift my hips up. And I'm exhaling as I lift, inhaling as I lower. Beautiful. Next exercise is the V up. So I'm going to make sure that I have my lower back pressed against the mat. I'm extending my arms above my head, and then I'm reaching for my toes. For the next one, I am doing a bear hold. Make sure that your shoulders are stacked above your wrists. We're going to lift our knees off the ground by engaging our core, and then we're slowly lowering and then lifting again. Again, make sure that your core is braced. Whenever you're training, especially when you're doing ab work, you have to make it yourself difficult, because you can just rush through the reps, use momentum, and not activating your core. Same 10 minutes will go by, but the result is very, very different. After 10 seconds, we're going to extend on this exercise. So again, I'm in a bear hold, beautiful, and then I'm going to extend my left arm and my right foot, and then I'm going to meet With the other side, then I'm going to bring everything back into center, and then I'm reversing. So I'm extending my right arm, extending my left foot, and then I'm doing it on the other side, and then bring everything in, back in center to the bear hold. Beautiful. Thank you so much for joining me in today's class. That was such a fun workout. Always make sure whenever you're training your abs and core that you are prepping your TVA so that you don't use your lower backs or your hip flexors mainly to take over the movement. Whenever you're training, you gotta make it yourself difficult. Otherwise, time is just wasted. Thank you so much for joining me, and then I will see you in the next one. Bye guys.